Welcome to Higher Caliber.
Welcome back to another episode of Higher Caliber Podcast, episode 27. Before we get started with our special guest today, we're going to welcome back our long-lost co-host, Don Wallace.
Hey, fellas.
He made his way back to us.
Welcome back, Don.
Yay.
So Tim and Jared here, like always, and we are here today with Dustin Mowery.
Yeah.
Thanks for making the drive up.
Absolutely.
So if you wouldn't mind giving a quick introduction and let us know what you do, and then we'll get into it.
Yeah, Dustin Mowery again. Police officer, 26 years of experience. Full-time. I was reserve for 4 years as I was going through college. And I got about a year or less left before I retire. Firearms instructor, defensive tactics instructor. Been a SWAT guy for 26 years. Teach for my department currently. A lot of our training there is done with teams that we have that I'm a member of. So, yeah.
What got you into law enforcement?
I grew up in law enforcement. My dad was a cop.
Cool.
So I just grew up in a small town, southeast Ohio, and grew up with it. Thought it was a great job, always looking at it. And then went to college for police science and then criminal justice. Got a bachelor's degree in that. So, and then started in full-time in 97. So just went through the career that way.
I was 5. That was a good year.
I was going to say, do you even remember 97 as a year?
Can we just stop?
Yeah.
Turn it.
The huge joke is his elementary teachers I went to high school with.
That's awesome.
So that's always a great way to make me feel old.
Yes.
I told you look good today.
You did. And I appreciate that. It's nice to hear at least once a day.
Yeah.
I was going to make a bet with Tim you'd show up in a Hawaiian shirt, but he wouldn't take the bet.
That was
like
It's an easy bet.
Yeah,
I've been real into spreads and, odds recently. So
that's given. The better way to try and do a bet is which Hawaiian shirt I'll show up in.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So we'll just jump right into it. What big changes have you seen in the last 25 years?
Oh, wow.
26.
Yeah, a lot, I would say. When we first started, things were, when I was raised on the job, if you will, I started in the mid 90s as a reserve for a smaller department. So I was brought on or kind of raised with the guys that were started in the late 80s, early 90s.
Mm-hmm. They're still shooting revolvers.
They had just transferred from revolvers. It's funny you say that. Yeah. They had just transferred from revolvers probably 4 years, maybe 5 years before I started there. They went to Glocks. They had Gen 1. They were literally carrying Gen 1 Glock 17s at that time.
Did most of the guys hate them?
No, they actually loved them.
Okay.
Because they didn't like the requalification course for Ohio at that point. Because then revolver, you had to shoot. Was it 6 rounds standing from 75 feet, do a reload, go to prone and shoot 6 more rounds. And the time was like 65 seconds or something. Like you were moving.
What's the maximum that we do handgun now? It's just
25 feet.
Yeah, 25
feet and it's 3 rounds.
It's
in
like 35 seconds.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Let's go over that whole qualification because that was one of the questions I had. What is the actual start to finish OPATA qualification?
Yeah. So the course is only 25 rounds. It starts out at very close distance, basically touch distance to a target. Mm. You got to, it's all that first 3 rounds is from the hip. Then you back up and you got 2 to the body, 1 to the head. You back up again. I think you're at 12 feet. Then you've got strong hand, 4 rounds, support hand, 4 rounds. Then you go back up to 21 feet. And then you go 3 reload 3. Mm-hmm. And then you back up the 10-yard line or 30 feet and you've got 2 rounds. Mm-hmm. And then you go back to the 50-footer and you've got 3 rounds. So it's a very quick course.
Yeah. But I think quick is even a great word because honestly, for what we're shooting, you get a lot of time. For 3 rounds, we've gone to private classes before. It's like, 3 rounds. We're like second and a half, 2 seconds, these 3 rounds in 5 seconds.
Yeah. You have a lot of time. The 3 reload 3 is 12 seconds or is it 12 or is it 9? No, I think it's 12.
Yeah.
It is 12. It was 9 originally. And then there was too many complaints out of that it was going to be too rough. So then it went to 12 seconds. And yeah, I mean, it's a ton of time.
Yeah.
Some of the guys like on our SWAT team will run it backwards. So we'll start at the 50 feet.
Mm-hmm.
We'll load up the magazine with 8 rounds. So we'll shoot 3 from 50, the 2 from 10. Or 30 feet, and then we'll run it as a continuous clock, and they'll just make them remember the course. Mm-hmm. And I think total time is like 52 seconds or something. Mm-hmm. And like most of the time they do it like 34, 35 seconds.
Yeah,
So
it's crazy. But what was it? It was around 2013, 2014 when they changed it, because it used to be. So when I went in the Army, it was 2010. When I came back in 2014, I went to do my qualification and I did the 25 rounds, and I was like, all right, what do I load up next? And I'm like, no, that's it. Yeah. Because it used to be what security still does. Yeah. OPATA security still does.
Rounds. Yeah. It was 60 rounds. They started looking at changing it in 2009 or 2010. And then I think it was 11 or 12 when they officially changed that. So, yeah.
I'm going to assume you guys, you've talked about this before. Mm-hmm. You don't think that's really satisfactory, but.
Right. Is it sufficient?
I mean, it's a minimum. I mean, I think that's the big thing that people need to understand. That is a minimum requirement. Right. We're not saying that.
But do you think the bar is too low?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. Completely. I mean, when again, I didn't really touch a handgun for 4 years while I was in the Army, and I went and I just did it completely. Hey, here's the gun you're going to be shooting. And, sadly, and we've had this discussion before, it was my XD40.
Brother.
Out of my Serpa holster. I know. I've learned and I've grown.
Can we just take him off the podcast?
We tried. He came back.
I've like Survivor.
Yeah, he's like syphilis.
Yeah, I have grown. I've matured.
You sure about that?
Yeah, not really. No. Yeah. But I mean, I passed the qualification. It wasn't great. It was like I call it. It was a torso shooter, but I still passed with 100%.
Yeah, like you said, you were an armpit to armpit shooter.
Yeah. Back then I was.
Mm-hmm. But you were stoked about it.
Yes.
I mean, to be fair.
Yeah.
So, and again, and you can attest to this, my first 10 years was all OPATA training. Mm-hmm. It was all OPATA classes, which was not training. It was you're passing a test.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How stringent have they been on the weapons handling? I think that's a lot more serious. Obviously, we want better standards, I would say. But as far as a weapons handling, is that graded pretty high, or is it just all?
What do you mean by weapons handling?
Like your proficiency on not shooting you or your partner before you even get to the point where you're an accurate shooter.
So you mean more like critical thinking? Like
I just mean weapons handling in general.
Not a scenario. Like we're moving with firearms.
Are you safe with a gun? Basically.
Yeah. Are you safe?
So I think there's a couple of different things with that. There's the one side of the house where guys look at this and they'll talk about, and I taught this for a long time of like, well, we got to go through all these carries and readies. We've got to have high ready and temple index and, a very pronounced SUL and a bunch of other stuff. Here's what I have seen. Traveling the country, teaching for my department and teaching a lot of other departments is when you start to introduce that, it takes so much thought process for guys to understand how to do that becomes the main thing. They stop worrying about or thinking about the shooting piece and they don't get it. And the only thing they want to do is like, okay, all right, okay, I shot. Okay, but I'm going to move around Don. Does the gun go up or the gun? And you'll see like the brain actually engage and start to overthink it and make it harder. Right. So I stopped teaching it probably 3 years ago, we'll say. I stopped teaching all the carries and ready stuff. And here's what I tell people now in classes that I teach, predominantly as law enforcement classes, is I say, listen, here's what I want you to do. I want you to be muzzle aware. Mm-hmm. That's what I want you to be. And it's in the firearm safety rules. I mean, it's kind of crazy, right? When they came up with firearm safety rules, it literally freaking says, don't muzzle anything that will end, kill, or destroy.
Right.
So I think if we keep that in mind and we say, okay, I want you to be muzzle aware. What I have seen with regular patrol guys, SWAT dudes, however you want to put it, special investigation guys, narcs, whatever. Once you kind of put it that way, it clicks in their brain and they go, Okay, that's super simple. And it's very easy. Anybody. Just don't muzzle anything. And sometimes I'll even describe it, using my hand and go, would you want me to do this if I had a gun in my hand? And they're like, well, no. And I go, cool, I don't want you to do that to me either. And I go,
makes sense.
That's pretty easy. Right? And I'm like, it's pretty fair. So there's that side of it. The other thing I would say is let's look at where officers, and obviously talking law enforcement here, where officers have issues and where they're really pointing guns at people. So first and foremost, I would go out on a limb and say, listen, officers are not negligently discharging. I can't say that word today. So if we can, let's edit that out. So I sound way cooler when I say it. They're not NDing. How about that?
There we go.
They're not NDing into civilians in real situations, on a very high, let's say over 80%. That's really not happening. Where the troubles are, in all reality, it's in training. Usually in force on force on paper, meaning I'm shooting Sims rounds at paper targets, because somebody else will usually walk into the training and the guys doing the training are not paying attention enough to be like, oh, you just walked in the door and you have a live gun on. We can't have you in here. So those are the situations that I've seen. And if you research it and look at it, that's where you'll see the major of the problems are, is that's when cops get in trouble and they actually are shooting people by accident because they're coming into a training environment with a live gun on, not necessarily being out in the real world and, standing and muzzling somebody that doesn't need to be muzzled. Mm-hmm. Cops are usually, not always, usually very good about, oh, okay, I can't, let me just put the gun, get it out of the way. And I also tell people, how many times have we been standing around in a situation and I have my gun out and you go, why do I have my gun out still? Things are over. Let me just put this back in my holster. You know what I mean? And then it's over with. You know what I mean? So
I think a lot of times, because I've been in those situations where you're looking around and you're like, okay, everybody's in handcuffs. We're not looking.
Yeah.
It's almost like you get it out and they're afraid to put it away.
Yes.
Maybe not so much afraid, but it's just like, okay, now that I've got it out, I'm supposed to do something with it. Yeah. I'm not sure what.
Yeah.
I've seen plenty of videos of other officers taking guns away after the incident's over, well from over. And they're just like, okay, just give me that. That's okay.
Right.
And I think a lot of those type situations are too. I think we just watched one of these videos in training where it's after that shooting occurs, they're mentally maybe not in that moment anymore, but it comes back to whoever else is there that needs to recognize, okay, that guy's not there. It's not that they're taking away the firearm or making them holster it because you did something wrong, but it's like, okay, you were just in a very serious incident. You're not needed to be in it anymore. We've got other guys here. We've got other people here. Let's slow things down quite a lot.
And I think it turns into the gun in their hand is like their tactical binky. It's their tactical whoopee. It's their safe spot where they're like, okay, I feel I'm good right now. I can still protect myself. Is this situation still calling for that? I mean, I've gotten out of my cruiser numerous times where I get out. I'm like, okay, guns out. Oh, I don't need a gun out right now. We just had an incident, a foot chase last week where things were moving and we ended up catching a guy and a couple guys had their gun out and I was far outside of that. And I'm like, I don't need my gun out right now. It just didn't call for it. But again, that comes back to, okay, well, how many times have you been involved in those situations to where you're
able to look outside of the situation.
Right? Yeah. And also it comes back to training. How is your training going? If you're only standing on the flat range all the time and there's no real thought that goes into the training, it's like, oh, see target, shoot target. Okay, put gun away. Then you'll start to see those issues. So.
Yeah. And getting back a little bit too, when you were asking about the gun handling, there are a lot of agencies around here that don't even factor that in at all because all they ever do is their qualifications.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
There's no state requirement on firearms training once you become a police officer.
Just the qualification.
Yeah, just the qualification. So if you've got a smaller agency that doesn't have the budget for it, the only time their officers may handle that firearm is when they go out to the range and qualify.
And understand too, the reason the qualification changed from 60 rounds to 25 rounds was because there was a lot of complaints from chiefs and sheriffs in the state of Ohio saying, well, that's a lot of rounds for my department.
Right.
Super expensive.
Yeah, budget wise.
It's all about money.
It's all about cash. And then the other thing was and this is not a knock, I like the way they were thinking about this. They said, well, okay, we'll make the qualification shorter. So we're going to turn this into 25 rounds. Great. Well, then that will give the agencies more time to train their officers.
Yeah, right.
Guess what happened?
Yeah.
None of that.
Yeah.
And I said that, and I was in 3 different meetings. One was in Franklin County and the other 2 were at Opata, and I was very boisterous about it. I'm like, that's not what's going to happen. Like, the agency I work now is a much larger department from where I came from. So I understand small town police departments. I'm like, that's not what they're going to do. They're going to call you off the road because they're going to be out at the range and they're going to say, hey, come out to the range. You're going to qualify. Not a problem. You go out. I'm on duty. I qualify. Yep. Air high five. You passed. Sign right here. Sign right here.
And how long do you say it takes? Like,
it's
a few minutes, 5 minutes.
I mean, it's 5 minutes is. Yeah.
It's pushing it.
And in those situations, you spend more time BSing with your buddies than you do actually working the gun.
Yeah. It'll take you longer to jam the mags up, unload the magazines, jam your magazines up, load the gun, step up onto the line than it does to actually shoot the qual.
And the rifle is the same way. I mean, I've seen
rounds.
I've seen a person who's never fired an AR before in their life get handed a gun that has not been sighted or zeroed by them and say, go do the course. This is how you drop a magazine.
Is it relatively the same?
No,
we're not talking about the Army, but
yeah,
dude, no, it's in law enforcement, they're getting these rifles and they're going, here you go. I mean, we both know, we've talked to them before, people that can pass the rifle qualification with a 38 snub nose. I mean, it's easily doable.
Yeah. And it's only 20 rounds. I mean, the rifle qual, again, it's the bare and
was it 75 feet?
It's 150 feet.
Okay. Yeah. 75 feet.
I think he was talking down to Greg Ellifritz a little bit.
He
said it's really easy.
I wasn't going to name drop, but what else?
Hey, I'll do a shout out to Greg. What's up, Greg?
Yeah, Greg.
I wasn't knocking him.
Greg's a good dude.
Yeah, Greg
I wasn't knocking it. I just wasn't going to be like,
Don doesn't like you.
I've talked to Greg Ellifritz on multiple occasions.
So if we were doing like Fantasyland time, if you could make what you would call like the standard qualification tomorrow, like what would it be? Just proficiency. If you could change the Opata standard, what would it be?
I would go back. Honestly, I would go back to the 60 round course. This is just me. I would go back to the 60 round course. The reason for that is it still had shooting and moving in it. So you had to move forward, you had to move backwards, and you had to move laterally. It put more emphasis on marksmanship and shooting better. But then again, the bare bones qual, that's just to say you can still be a police officer in the state of Ohio or whatever state you're working in, right? That qualification. I think more emphasis needs to be on what we're doing in training. If you want better police officers to be able to shoot better and raise the hit percentage from, some people are saying, 13% up to 30%. Okay. Either one of those numbers, anything in between that, it's under 50%. So if you want to be able to do that, what you have to do is you have to move away from just flat range shooting. You have to get away from this. It's proven over and over and over and over again. It doesn't work. That style of training doesn't work. Why are we continuing to do this? I mean, what's the definition of insanity, right? Continuing thinking what you're doing is correct and you keep doing the same thing.
Expecting a different result.
Right. Yep. And you're just running into the brick wall. So in all reality, if you look at it and the way that law enforcement, and I only talk about the state of Ohio, but law enforcement training in this state specifically, it's been the same thing since the end of World War II up until let's say the mid 50s. And what we did is we made it super simple. We made it very easy so you could step out on line. It doesn't take a lot of thought. I mean, you can teach a monkey how to shoot a pistol and step out there and shoot this target. There's no real, that was weird. Why are you pointing over here?
My bad. It was just a weird reflex when he said monkey.
I think he was pointing at me.
Yeah.
Like a monkey.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That was strange. Yeah, it was very, we'll talk about that later. Write that down. Anyway.
To self.
Yeah. So I think that what we really need to do is look at and pay attention to what is happening in law enforcement. And again, we're only talking about Ohio right now of where the shootings are really happening and what's going on. And then, you go that direction. And I think the direction you start really looking at, again, we're not talking about tactics. Tactics is something separate. That's not the same. People want to mix those together, and we're not talking about that. We're talking about just shooting. If you look at the practical shooting world, those are the best shooters in the world. Why are we not using practical shooting as the way?
How long have you been doing competition shooting?
So I grew up in competitive shooting. My dad was also, has always been in competitive shooting. They've obviously told me stories of, they took me to my first shooting match when I was 6 weeks old. I was shooting muzzleloaders. I was literally sitting in the back of the car with little iPro on apparently and some big ass head muffs on and sleeping through that whole thing. But so my dad started shooting competitively and has always shot competitively. Muzzleloaders, shot a lot of IPSC when it started in the 70s. We used to go down to Marietta and shoot at the original Fort Harmar. I was a brass rat down there. Then we used to go to Michigan when Second Chance. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Second Chance. It's actually Rich Davis is the guy who started Second Chance Body Armor Company. Okay. And he's the guy that if you've ever seen the old videos from the 70s and the 80s that put the body armor on, he'd shoot himself in the chest.
Oh, yeah. That guy?
It's that guy. Oh. So Rich Davis is that guy's name. Great guy, much older now, but he used to have a shooting competition in Michigan that my dad would used to go to. And that's where shooting bowling pins became a very big thing. Okay. So we would go up there and shoot competitions. So I've been around it all my life, but then really started shooting competitively again and hard focusing on it in 2020. Last year, or this year, I should say, I switched to carry optics division.
Probably the best.
It's absolutely, yeah. I mean, I love carry optics. Oh, yeah. I mainly went to carry optics because I could no longer see that.
Because you can't see the sights?
I can't see the friggin' sight anymore. It's not my eyes, it's the gun's eyes. Yeah, that causing a problem.
Definitely. Front sight post is bent.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. It definitely was bent to the right all the time. And then sometimes bent. Yeah. So I went to carry optics. Absolutely love it. And again, using those drills to make officers or show officers where they can get to and how much of a better shooter they can actually truly be, and understanding the gun is the way that I think that we need to go.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, and the nice part about that is, again, coming from an agency that always just did the static, let's do our qualifications and go away, to our agency now where we're doing that. I'm like, dude, I love this.
It brings a whole nother level to it.
It's a totally different level.
It completely changes everything. Yeah. And it's fun.
Yes.
Like, I don't get guys that go to the range and like, I'm like, I love seeing the orange snow netting and the barrels out. I'm like,
so you implement that in your training, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So I went to a couple classes in 2019 and I went to X-ray Alpha class. Matt and I are good friends. He came up here to Ohio. We shot together for a couple of days. Matt and then a couple other buddies, we all shot together. And then we got invited to come down to North Carolina, Fayetteville area to shoot with Matt and Ben Stoker.
Very cool.
Ben was doing a class. Matt was his assistant instructor, his AI, right? And so everybody else there, except for the four of us goofballs that walked into this class, we were very tactical. So we had thigh rigs and, you know what I mean?
Hell yeah, brother.
Dude, we were busting it out. It was awesome. Just balling out of control, right? And we show up and everybody else there is like a practical shooter. And we were like, what is this about? This is kind of cool. You know what I mean? And so we went, and it was 2-day classes on the weekend. And, if you've ever seen Ben shoot, talk to Ben, listen to what he says. The guy is, if not the top shooter in the world, he is one of the top 3 shooters in the world. So then really started asking him a lot of questions, Matt a lot of questions, and really diving into this. And for my department, I built 4 walls. We have a trailer now for our firearms unit, our ordnance team. So we drag the walls out. We've got bases to hold the walls up. We use the barrels. We only train on USPSA targets.
Very nice.
That's how all of our training is structured.
Do you score it like that too?
Yeah. Yeah. So at times it depends. Like we ran a little stage this year, right? So we did a little stage. It was 40 points. So we scored it with hit factor.
Did you use practice score?
No, we did not use practice score.
I was just wondering if you streamline it with.
No. We were going to. I talked about it. I'm still teaching my guys like how to understand how to do all the points and do all this, and they're getting better at it. But we did it for the department, and getting the patrol guys to understand that, because again, in normal law enforcement, again, just talking about Ohio, like they don't understand that speed and accuracy have to work together. Right?
Definitely.
That's like,
you can be a great stand and shoot shooter.
Yeah.
But when you start moving, it humbles you right now.
Oh.
And that's what me for my first USPS, even the first few USPSAs I shot, I'm like, I thought I could shoot okay, but I suck.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, the first one I went to, I was in Zanesville and shooting out there at Briar Rabbit. And of course I walk in, I'm like, I got 27 years in SWAT. I'm a bad mamma jamma.
Yeah. And then you found out it doesn't matter.
Bro, I was shooting production, right? And this 60-some-year-old guy, I think he was like 63 or 64, like could barely walk to the line. And I'm like, loser. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, okay, old man. And he was shooting production. And I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. Rolling my eyes, doing the typical, no, okay. So he steps up and, load, make ready, and he does his thing. Takes forever. I'm like, Jesus, dude, we're using a sundial at this point. Like,
probably did.
Are you going to make it? Right? You know what I mean? No. And he was like, shooter ready, stand by. Boop. This dude draws this pistol and he starts running around like he's 18 years old.
No kidding.
He was saving it.
I mean, Blaze Ops. He invented it, right? He's just bah, 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 and I'm just standing there going, and I look at my buddy and he's like, yeah, I think we done fucked up. And I'm like, I'll never underestimate, this other carry optics guy come over to me and he was a really good guy. He's like, you're a cop, aren't you? And I go, maybe. Why would you say that? He goes, you are super, super accurate, but you can't move for crap. And I'm like, yeah, all right. I'm a cop.
You just got rolled by Bill Wilson's dad.
Oh man. Yeah, exactly. Right? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, all right, bud, you'll be better. I'll give you a couple tips. This is the open, which the guys in open, that's a totally different category.
Definitely.
Competitively, right? Those guys are not even in the same category as the rest of us. You know what I mean? They're shooting guns that are like Daisy Red Ryder BB guns. You know what I mean?
Because our buddy Mark says it's like fast food.
100%. Yeah. So the open guy he goes, some of this you can use, some of this you can't because, different guns or whatever. And then it's just been this journey, and if you guys shoot competitively, you know how it is. And it's probably one of, if not the most frustrating thing that I've ever done. I dry fired this morning before I got ready to come up here and I was just angry when I was done. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, I think though, like when I took Matt Little's class, I told you what he says is he's like, Green Beret, SWAT, Chicago guy. I go to my first class and he goes, this IT guy, less pepperoni. Yeah. He's like, totally smokes me.
Yeah.
And he's like humbled me. And he goes,
Les is awesome, dude.
But he's like, but here's the thing. He goes, did I let it embarrass me and I never came back, or did I let it humble me and I've kept working? And I think that's one of the biggest problems in law enforcement is we get this chip on our shoulder and it's like, well, I think competition's bad.
Yeah.
Don't do it. You're going to get, killed in the streets.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, what do you say to people? Sorry to cut you off. That's where you're going with it, right? Like, what do you say to people that... What do you say to people that, say things like that? That'll get you killed in the streets.
So
KILLT.
Exactly.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how we were spelling. I was going to double check that. So a couple of things, right? So the guys that raised me on the job, right? Again, the guys we were talking earlier in the 80s or whatever. If you think back, really competitive IPSC shooting didn't get really big here until the 70s. And we didn't have the understanding and or the drills that we do today. I mean, if you get Ben's books or any of the other guys that are, and there's a lot of really highly competitive people out there. I'm just using Ben as an example because he writes so many books and I've read a bunch of them and have them. We didn't have all of this. So when you had the competitive shooting side started in law enforcement and started being pushed that way, they didn't have the understanding like we do today, if that makes sense, right? Mm-hmm. We didn't understand all of the drills, right? Like doubles. And, I watch these guys on IT or IG and whatever talk about, well, doubles is, you're using it as an engagement, but stop. It's not, it's a drill. Mm-hmm. It's not a shooting sequence in a real engagement. It's not that, right? So we didn't have all the things that so you had these cops in the 80s who raised the cops in the 90s, firearms instructors, who then those guys raised the dudes in the early 2000s. So you had this 20-year gap, we'll say, of they didn't know what they didn't know. They didn't have the understanding they do today. Now, what I tell those people is, listen, here's how I want you to think about this, is defensive tactics in law enforcement, right? And everybody's like, yeah, okay, that's pretty cool. And I'm like, right. So what's probably the biggest thing that we use in defensive tactics today in law enforcement? And they're like, well, we grapple. And I'm like, where did that come from? They're like, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And I'm like, it's kind of weird. What do they do a lot in that? They compete. Like, it's a sport.
Right.
And I'm like, if you can use BJJ in law enforcement that has a high competitive side, why can't you use the competitive side of just the shooting? Stop thinking about this as tactics. I'm only trying to make you a better shooter. So using the shooting side of this to make you a better shooter, your tactics side will get easier, and everything relates, right? We've had for a long time, we've had this thing of, well, there's the shooting piece and then there's the, the tactics side. We'll just say CQB to make it easy for everybody to understand, right? And that they were these two separate things. No, the shooting piece has to support the CQB side of the house, because if I'm going to go into a house, a building, a structure, or even outside around vehicles, or I'm dealing with the public, if my tactics are really well, but my shooting sucks and I have to pull the trigger, I could have the greatest tactics in the world. I mean, I could be DevGru, MARSOC, Delta, but if my shooting sucks, my shooting sucks. So why don't we make the shooting piece better, and then it makes the CQB better, or the tactics side of the house, and then everything just starts doing this, and it just delves together, and it gets a lot easier.
I mean, the only way to fix that is a $4,000 gun, right?
No. Well, it depends. I mean, if you want to be an open guy, right?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Not me.
No. Or if you want to, shoot PCC, which it's cool. I mean,
what are you shooting right now?
So I shoot a Shadow 2 with an SRO.
Hammer gang.
Yeah. I mean, that's what
You're not a Langdon fanboy?
I've never shot one of his guns. I've never shot one of his guns. I don't know.
Shots fired, so to speak.
Yeah. I mean, obviously I know
Jared may or may not have 6 of his guns.
Oh,
I don't know.
Wow.
4.
Whatever.
Right.
4, 6.
4, 6. It's the same number, really.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know. So,
Don, how did you view it when you saw people competing before you did it yourself and you got with him?
Yeah.
So I think it's just finding the right people with the right attitude. So the biggest thing that I found over, I ignore my first 10 years of firearms training. I can't, all that is to me is like bad examples, So I kind of started over back in 2014. And the biggest one for me is, if they're negative about it, then they've probably never done it or they got embarrassed. If they're open-minded about it, those are the guys I listen to. When I find people that are like, nope, that guy's an idiot, don't do anything he says, I'm like, well, maybe I don't want to do what you say. I've taken a lot of classes over the last 8 or 9 years with a lot of different thought processes, a lot of different ways to do things. And I'm just picking up what each person has that works for me. Yeah. You've got people that are like pinky pressure, people that are like gorilla grip, and like, well, this is what works best for me out of all, because I've taken those classes. I've worked on it under, and we can get into this a little bit later. I've got the instruction part of it, now the practice part of it, which is what's going to work best for me. And the biggest thing I can say about the competition side of it is just get out and do it and realize just how much fun it is. It's so much more than just standing and staring at a target and shooting and patting yourself on the back. Fine, you're going to go out and get embarrassed. I haven't had a chance to do it yet. It's like every summer I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go out and do it. And then it's like, oh, we're finishing the basement this summer. Wow. Shit. Okay. But I want to get out there and do it, because everything I've heard from people that have done it is the same thing. It's an unbelievably supportive community. Oh, yeah, it's not absolutely. Like you're going out and again, you humble yourself. But like you said, the old dude was like, hey, here's what you can pick up from this. Absolutely. Matt Little's like, Pepperoni was like, hey, this is what you can get from this. It's competitive, but you're not trying to destroy your competition. You're trying to make yourself better at the same time. So that's what I get from it. I thought it was, before I actually went out and started talking to people that had actually done it, I was like, oh, it's gimmicky. You're going to get yourself killed. You're running around corners. You're bouncing around. You would never do that in the real world.
Yeah.
But you don't carry that gun on duty, so you're not getting anything from this.
And those were my attitudes until I started talking to people that actually did it. And I started realizing the people that were so negative about it were people that never did it.
Never did it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was the biggest, I had to sit back and go, well, I get upset when people tell me how to be a cop and they've never been a cop. And I'm like, and I'm listening to people that have never done competitive shooting telling me not to do competitive shooting and how to do it. Yeah. And that's the biggest takeaway I have from it. Go out and try it. If it's not for you, it's not for you. Yeah. But what I like, and I think you're one of the people that said it best, is like, you can go out and spend your registration fee and maybe 50 rounds of ammo, 100 rounds of ammo, depending upon how many rounds you do, and get quality work done in a short period of time.
They set up and clean up for you.
Yeah. It's super nice.
So it's great. I mean, you can show up literally and just and you don't have to clean anything up.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on where you go. Sometimes they're like, hey, can you help us tear down?
We'll help them.
Yeah. I mean, like we shoot down at Oxford, we'll shoot a match over there, once a month. And in the southwestern part of Ohio, Oxford probably has the best match around. It truly is. Like if you guys ever can make it down there, the match, it's usually, a 1-day match. Sometimes they'll have 8 stages.
Okay.
So, it's a little bit of a haul. It's an hour and 45 minutes for me to get there from the Columbus area, but it's still, it's still a really good time to go down.
The same way I always go places.
Oh, okay. So no,
I got a belt. I got a set up for a 1734 that you can just go.
But I will say once you go on practice corps and when that match comes up, like, don't wait the next day because it'll be full.
It'll be full.
It fills up very, very quickly. They do a really good job down there. But I would also say to people that don't know is they don't understand that how much has come out of the competitive world. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Gear wise, if you talk about revolvers, like where did speed reloaders come from? That law enforcement carried for years when we carried revolvers. That came from the competitive side. Mm-hmm. Where did fiber optics sights come from? That came from the competitive side. There are so many different things that have come out because the competitive side, what's happening? They're doing it all the time. Mm-hmm. And then there's a guy who's, let's say a dentist or something, who's like, hey, I want to make this better. How can we get this better? Oh, let's do this and let's do that. And then it just makes the gun world better.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
Yeah.
Are red dots a thing for agencies? Are some of them going to them?
Yeah, there's a lot of departments that are going to them. We're trying to get our department to switch over to them. There's a lot of departments out there. I know there's 3 departments, maybe 4 departments, big departments now across the U.S. that when they're running their academy, this was probably 4, maybe 5 years ago, to where they would literally put out, let's say there's 60 people in a class. They would lay out 60 guns with red dots and 60 irons, 60 guns with irons. And 5 years ago, 3/4 of the guns taken were irons. Now that number has switched. It's actually 80, 90% is all red dots. I mean, you think about it. These guys growing up now coming in, they're playing video games.
Definitely.
Everything has a red dot on it. They understand.
That was the first thing I put on my Call of Duty gun.
Yeah, right.
The red dot.
Yeah, you're like, why would I not do that? It's right. I can look at the target and put the red dot on it, squeeze the trigger. And I want to do that because it's much easier. So when you explain it, we have guys at our department that are younger, obviously, they're coming on and they're 23, 24 years old. So they shoot my gun that's got a dot on it. They're like, oh, this is exactly like COD. And I was like, what's COD? What is that? And they're like,
cash on delivery.
Right. I don't understand this. Is that an app? And they're like, Call of Duty, old man. I'm like, I got you. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. But they understand it. They're like, it's so much easier. So it's definitely a thing. And I think also because of competitive shooting, red dots are being produced now. They're better, right? They're before they were
more robust. Yeah, they can ride in a duty holster.
And they're way more robust. You don't have to worry about it. I know a couple agencies here in Ohio that they carry Trujicon SROs. They're
Sweet.
Do
they have the cage on it?
No.
Really?
No.
I know. I love mine, but I'm just scared to drop it.
Yeah. A big part of it too is it's, again, admin level. It's cost.
It is.
You're talking about if you can get the trade in, great, because now you're talking about it's got to have a different slide. Now you're also talking about you're not just, we all know you're not just going to give somebody a gun with a red dot and be like, have fun on the street, sonny.
Right.
There's got to be training so they can learn how to find the dot. And so I think that's the biggest part of it.
Does there though? I mean, because you said some of these places are shooting once a year. Do they care?
I think those smaller agencies, I don't think they care.
Well, especially the guy, I'm just assuming the guy with the checkbook probably in a lot of these places never shot with one himself or herself.
Right. Well, there's also these places that are, you run what you brung. Right.
Yeah. I mean,
that's still a thing.
So my last agency, you could get the department issued, which was the SIG 226. You remember that thing. I loved shooting it. Or you could just qualify with whatever you wanted. And the scary part about that was when I first started there, I was carrying the XD40 on duty in a Serpa holster.
I can't believe you just admitted that.
I did. I admit it because I was humbled. We're going back to the humble.
Yeah, sorry. Hey, look in the camera and say I was wrong.
Right there. I was wrong.
You're man enough to
I was wrong.
Yes. So nice. Well played. I see what you did there.
But like I started working at it, and then I got my M&P 2.0 Performance Center that had that I had the Trigicon on, and I loved carrying that.
Yeah.
And I was allowed to because I took a course and I did all this, and I was allowed to do that. But again, now you're looking at larger agencies.
Yeah.
Smaller agencies, 5 red dots is a big part of their budget. Now you go to larger agencies and you're talking about 80. 80 dots. And okay, how are you going to do that? Are you going to buy them first, then trade in your old? You're going to do this, you're going to do that. A buddy of mine works for Houston PD. He's a supervisor down there, and they switched to all red dots, but they're a large enough agency. They have their own academy. They now have their guys do red dot in the academy. So it's a no-brainer. It's just part of that process.
Yeah.
But he goes, one of the biggest issues for them was when they did the switchover. He goes,
the logistics of it.
He said it took them a solid year.
Yeah.
Now, Houston PD is ginormous.
It's massive.
But he said it took them a solid year just to get their instructors trained on the dots.
Yeah.
So they could have the in-house instructor. So there's a lot of logistics.
There is.
But it's whether or not they go to those logistics. We have a local agency here that now's gone to red dots. And I've asked some of their patrol guys what they did, and they gave me a gun with a red dot.
Yeah.
See, that's what I mean.
And that's it.
Yeah. Well, then you're looking at, sorry to interrupt you, I apologize. Then you're looking at, why did they do that? Was it because they really wanted to go to red dots, or was it because it was a cool guy thing?
Right.
Yeah.
It usually turns into the cool guy thing. And then when they start shooting them and they're like, "Ooh, wait a minute." They pull the gun out and they're doing this.
That's what I was going to say. Like, I think a lot of people don't understand the nuance between the rifle platform and the pistol when it comes to the dot.
Yes.
Because you throw a dot on a rifle, it's just instinctual.
Yes.
3 points of contact.
Yeah.
Bad guy or target, whatever, dot.
Yeah.
With the pistol, you're fishing. Once you learn how to shoot it, it's great.
Yeah.
But
it takes time.
Yeah.
Again, there's a lot of different ways to get to the end result, a way to teach how to find the dot, and once you get there, then it's like, okay, now I want to get the consistency of, is the dot showing up in the middle of the glass every single time? Okay. Once you get that, then, and everything we're talking about is practice and understand, like in our department, you can come into our SWAT room and I have dry fire targets set up everywhere, the 1/3 and the 1/6 size targets all over that room. There's a Glock sitting in there that's got 2 magazines with dry fire ammo in there. And there's a timer. Yeah. And there's a rubber band sitting on the top of the Glock so you can reset the trigger. So you don't have to buy the special gun, right? To, do all that silliness. And I'm like, you're getting paid, right? When you're taking a break to chill out, take 5 minutes of that chill out time and walk into that room if the doors are open, and go in there and just take 5 minutes. And we have a lot of guys that are doing it now.
Well, are you dry firing at work?
At work? Actually, yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice when you have your private office. You can shut the door and not freak out your coworkers.
Yes. Well, yeah. I can see where that would be kind of weird.
That part's frowned upon.
Yeah. Or there's a desk pop.
So I think...
When's the last time you did a desk pop?
Hey guys, I did it my first desk pop.
March 2008.
Yes, March 2008.
But I think part of that issue goes back to that minimum standard test.
Yes.
Qualification. you can give somebody a red dot, and even if they're fishing for it, they still have so much time that they're going to find it and they're going to qualify.
Yes.
Within that date, within that hour period, hey, we're pulling you off the road for an hour.
Yeah.
Here's your sidearm with a dot on it. Run it through 2 or 3 times. You're qualified to have a nice day.
Right.
Do you know if the corrections people like state prisons, they carry guns? Do they have a minute? Like, do they do OPATA too?
They do.
Yeah.
So
is there once a year?
Yeah. So those guys, because we shoot down on their range at Orient Range, which is actually at the Orient prison facility, which is intake for the state prison system. And then across the street, literally across the street, is the Pickaway County or the Pickaway prison. And those guys, they're doing firearms quals, year round. So a lot of people are going down there and qualifying. How much time they're training them, I don't know.
Well, I'm gonna say very little because so I used to work at a hospital and they would bring prisoners in, right?
Yeah.
And they accompany the prisoners. And I was starting an IV one time or something with the patient, and there's usually 2 officers with them, and the one girl pulls her gun out.
Okay,
and is asking the other
misogynist.
Nice.
Well, it is what it
part
is.
of the story.
We're gonna lose our 3 female listeners.
Yeah,
Nice.
she pulls it out, and she asked the other officer, "Is my gun loaded?" Like she has no clue.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I need to get out of this room right now.
So I do know part of the reason for that is they don't daily carry as well. If they have to transport somebody, it's a pool gun. It's like, hey, grab. Here's the key. Go grab the handgun out of the locker in the office. Right. Make sure you're good to go. Put it in a holster and take this guy. Take this guy to the hospital.
Yeah. No, they do not. So,
ouch.
Yeah,
well, very just strange.
But I've heard stories as well. Yeah, different hospital security folks. It's all out there. I've heard it. Full-time law enforcement stuff like that happens as well. But it goes back to that. How often, do they just holster that firearm and they don't? More than likely, they're not the kind of people that are carrying off duty. They're not the kind of people that think about that process. No. So they're not daily. I still know guys who. The only time that gun comes out of the holster is when they're at the range. Yeah. Right. They don't even take it out to put it in a safe. They hang it up in a wall locker at work and go home. That's what I figured.
If it just stays in the belt. And
or leave it at home.
Yeah.
Police officers are not gun people.
No, they're not. Have either of you left your gun in the bathroom?
No.
Because I've heard that happens.
It does happen. But
it does.
I've never done that. Yeah. I've never done that.
No, there's tricks you can do if you absolutely have to go to the bathroom. There's things you can do to make sure that doesn't happen.
Can you not take your whole belt off and put it back on?
You can, but it's depending upon the bathroom, where are you putting that belt?
Right.
I'm just going to lay it on the urine soaked floor. That's great.
Yeah, probably not the best.
The nice part is if you can find the private bathroom with a baby changing station. Oh, those are heavenly. Just put everything.
I've seen pictures of service weapons on police changing stations.
But like you said, I leave it in the belt. I don't when I'm doing that type of situation. I'm not.
How far do you get where you're like,
I don't have my belt on?
Yeah. How many times? Be honest, because it happened to me. How many times did you leave your rifle in the Army? At least even for 20 seconds, basic training or whatever,
too many to count.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially basic because we were so sleep deprived.
Yeah.
And
you don't care about an M4 with a BFA on it.
Yeah, no. But my story is about a month or 2 after I got out of FTO at my old agency. Went to the county jail, dropped off a prisoner, did my gun and lockup, and I'm all the way back at the department. I'm driving around the city. Shit. And I realized left my gun in the locker.
Yeah.
Get a hold of my supervisor. I'm on my way back to county. All right. Don't let it happen again. So, but you pick up tricks. So what's my trick now? And you tell any cop and they know.
Gun, do I have my gun?
Yes. No, the trick is my car keys go in with my gun.
Yeah.
Smart.
So the only way I'm going to start my car is by opening up that little locker.
At least your car keys because they're with your gun.
Yeah.
You don't have an iPhone yet, do you? No. You say you get an Apple AirTag. Yeah. Put it on that thing.
How do you not have an iPhone at this point?
Yeah, exactly.
He's still holding out.
Are you a child?
No, but I'm also cheap.
Down, plug in the camera. Say I was wrong.
I was wrong.
I don't like iPhones. I used to have an iPhone. I'm that guy. I don't like them.
Yeah, that's right.
Weird.
Three of my 17 children have iPhones.
We actually discussed on an earlier podcast that we don't think we can trust Oliver Anthony because he's got a Samsung.
Yeah, it's true. It's a damn shame.
It's a damn shame.
Mine's a Motorola, but that's just because it's always the cheapest phone they offer.
Wow. I do have a question.
I break them.
Nokia.
Yes.
What do you guys have to do to maintain being a peace officer? Like, is it just shooting or is there other things?
So, yeah, we have to do the qualification every year, but then Ohio started, they've done this 3 times now, I think, with the CPTs. They call them CPTs. They've called them continuing education credits. They've called them all kinds of different things. Over the last several years, they now do these CPTs to where you have to go through, I think it's 24. Was it 24 hours this year? I think
this year was 24. They've had other years where it's been 40. It just, that's the problem though. There's no consistency.
Yeah. So now we have to, and have been the last few years, you do these CPTs and the department, they'll give you a range. I think Ohio gave like 28 credit hours, and I may be completely wrong on this. I apologize, but I think they gave 28 hours and said you have to do 24. So then the department can say, oh, okay, we're going to do these 24. Now we're a big enough agency where we work that it's nice that we do the vast majority of our training in-house versus having to go on Opata's website and just watch a PowerPoint and be like, this is awesome. I'm learning nothing right now.
Yeah. And that's honestly what it is. It's a check the box. You're just checking the box that you did an online training. There's no quiz at the end. It's just,
Sometimes they'll have quizzes, but it's not.
It's not. Typically not.
Yeah.
No.
So
we got it bad, dude.
80 hours.
Well, we do.
80,
it's like 86 for EMS. And then
3 years, though. That's 3 years.
3 years, but then there's like 40 hours for fire.
I mean, does it cut
3 years?
Does it cut into nap time?
That's what I was going to.
Okay.
That's what
I did have another question. Go ahead.
Come on.
Have you guys ever thought about being firemen? Like at one point in your life, like I want to be a fireman?
I thought about becoming a cop.
I burnt myself on the stove as a child, and I was like, that was stupid.
Right.
So I'm good.
Yeah. My thought was no.
No?
That's interesting. Because I was like, let me see, running into a house or whatever is on fire. Last time I checked, fire's bad.
It is bad.
Yeah.
And I
Bullets,
was like,
pepper spray, batons, they don't do anything to fire. I've tried.
Yeah. So hard pass.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
I finished the test is what I did. I finished the test. So that's why
the joke is that you failed the test.
I
became a cop.
Right.
I took the test when I got out of the Army. I went and took the one for Columbus Fire and passed it.
So the answer to my question was yes.
I took the test because I had nobody in law enforcement was hiring. And I was like, I have no other training other than civil service. Let's try this out. I took the test and passed. And I was like, why did I do that? I have no desire to do this job. Now, I am not saying it's a horrible job. Have you guys ever thought about being police officers?
Yeah, at some point in my life.
Well, shit. Yeah. So, but no, it's just, it's one, I don't like working
I think it's a great job. Yeah. Way.
I don't like working with like patients.
I watch police activity while I'm at work.
Nice.
And that's how I know there's a lot of Hollow Sun 509Ts showing up on
absolutely.
On guns everywhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're cropping up everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, but yeah, I don't like working with patients either. Like I talked to my sister who's an ER nurse and she's like, this patient, I was like, I would have pushed him off the bed. Yeah. I'm like, I don't know how you deal with those people.
Yeah.
Working in the ER is a H&L.
I worked in the ER for like 3 months. And the fact that you couldn't get away from the patients after you saw them the first time. And I saw my,
you got to keep seeing them.
Yeah. I saw my buddies from the department coming in. I'm like, bye guys.
Yeah. See, I would just walk around with like 10 vials of Haldol. You know what I mean? You're like, that's, and he's out. Why'd you Haldol him? Because he wouldn't shut up.
Exactly.
He wouldn't stop talking. So I just Haldol the guy. Yeah.
I have a study. We'll talk about retention. That's everybody's favorite topic.
Absolutely.
The best study I could find was from the International Association of Chiefs of Police. It was from 2019. So I know the numbers are way more drastic than that now. Yeah. But 78% of agencies reported having difficulty in recruiting qualified candidates, and 65% of agencies reported having too few candidates applying to be law enforcement officers. We know it's bad across the board in public service, but what do you think is the main factor?
I think 20 did not help, obviously.
Right.
the way that the narrative was put out there, you can believe, whatever. That could be a whole nother discussion of, what was seen, what would actually happen, and whatever.
I mean, whatever you can talk about would be appreciated.
Yeah, but. I mean, I think if you watch the video from that incident, I think from my experience and from what I saw on the video, I don't think that person died from choking.
Well, neither does the toxicology report.
Yes.
But.
Yeah. The toxicology report says no. And if you start the video from the very beginning, when the officer is approaching the vehicle with the suspect in it, from my 26 years of experience and also working narcotics for 7 years, my experience of when a person does this, leans towards their center console and their hands are rapidly moving towards their mouth into a face area, they are probably, or there is a 90% chance that they are ingesting some type of narcotic.
It's either a toddler or an adult chewing
right.
drugs.
Yeah. Yes. Very quickly, so, so a lot of those things I think were taken into account. And then when I think I understand people being upset. I do. I understand there was a cause to be upset.
Yeah. I don't want to debate that part.
No, there was a cause to be upset. Okay, great. But when it affected the entire country and all of us were held accountable for this of something, I know it was in Minneapolis. I know, but I don't know. Couldn't tell you where, couldn't get you there. It wasn't me. It wasn't anybody that I worked with. Are there departments that have officers that do bad things? Yes. But if you use the same time frame of, like you said, of that 2019 time frame when another study came out, they looked at those numbers and they said, okay, there were, 900 shootings, or let's say in the US and at that same time period of 19, and like 7 of those shootings were the suspect did not have a weapon, was unarmed. 2 of those incidents were deemed. The other 5, it was deemed that, the officer shot the suspect and the suspect died or was severely injured because they were physically attacking the officer. So they were deemed that they were okay. 2 of those, there was no weapon found, and the officers actually committed a crime. They murdered 2 people. And guess what happened to those 2 officers? They went to prison.
Yeah.
They went to prison.
And that is not a happy time to be a cop in prison.
And they went to prison for those acts. So I mean, is law enforcement perfect? No, there's no job that is perfect. I mean,
we're all people.
Yeah, 100%. At the end of the day, we're all people. So I think if people would have understood that at the beginning of like, okay, let's wait for the facts. Let's see what comes out of this. Let's listen to the toxicology report. Let's see what's really going on. And I think understanding, and you'll know what I'm talking about when I say this, is there's a theory called the theory of close enough, right? So, and I'll give you an example of this. We're going to go to Don's house. He's going to have a barbecue at his house, and you're walking around the right side of the house. It's kind of, let's say there's some bushes, but there's like a little sidewalk there, and you're walking through and you're dealing with your kids, right? You guys both have kids and you're arriving together, and the kids are running around and you're doing this, and you catch something out of the corner of your eye and you look and you jump because you're like, oh my God. And because you're like, that's 100% a snake. Okay. Well, why did you think it was a snake? Well, it was because it was shaped like a snake. It was dark in color and it was curling. And then when you take that extra second, you look at it, you're like, holy shit, man, that was a damn garden hose. That's a theory. That's the theory. It's an example of the theory of close enough. The brain will take this 80% what you see and go, whoop, that's a snake. And will make you think that.
Right.
I think if you look at that video, and again, long debate, we can go down another rabbit hole on that. But I think people that were there, they believed their brain was filling in and saying, that looks like a choke. It was the theory of close enough. Their brain filled it in and went, yep, this is what's happening. And it all rallied because what else was happening? The suspect, who, again, he did pass away. That is, it's horrible to see anybody pass away. Nothing that, as a police officer, I never want that to happen to anybody that I have to deal with in a very good situation or on an arrest situation. I never, ever want to see the suspect pass away. Right. But, he's yelling that he couldn't breathe or whatever. Well, again, toxicology says, well, that thing happened because why? It's because he had ingested a large amount of narcotics. Mm-hmm. So again, with your guys' background, I'm sure you've seen where people have taken narcotics and they were unable to breathe. So yeah, I think several things were in play, but overall, I think if the narrative wouldn't have been, oh, all cops are bad, the whole entire system is broke. I don't believe that. I can tell you I would not have stayed in this profession for 26 years if I thought it was broken. Right. I wouldn't have stayed here. I'd have been like, well, this is bad. This is a joke. I'm out. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't left the agency that I did and went to the department I'm at now and stayed and been like, nah, this thing is still broken. I'd have went and done something else. And I think all cops will say that, or even firemen or EMTs or anybody in public safety. We get into the public safety because that drive to serve ultimately and help our fellow man. So,
yeah. I think too, I always go back to, when I was applying at agencies was pre 9/11. I had been in law enforcement for 6 months when 9/11 happened, and everybody wants to look at those 9/11 numbers. Well, everybody wanted to be a hero. Everybody was joining fire, EMS, anything first responder. Everybody was joining. Well, even pre 9/11, I can remember going to an agency that had 2 openings. There were 300 applicants.
Oh, absolutely.
300 for 2 openings. We were just talking at lunch today. There is a high dollar top pay agency down in Franklin County that had how many apply for their positions?
They had probably 25, but they only, after backgrounds and everything else was done, they had 2 people that they could look at and go,
but 25 applicants for 2 open positions or for an open position. And out of those 25, they could only even look at 2. That's part of the problem and I think a lot of it is the people that really, truly would be good in law enforcement are steering clear.
Yeah.
They're finding something else.
That's true for the military.
Yep.
Right.
Anywhere.
Yeah. And I'm sure you guys are seeing it as well on the fire side and
definitely.
EMT side.
We are,
Yeah. I mean, and a lot of it goes to, I don't ever want to blame COVID for too much, but there was a lot going on with that where now you've got that people don't feel like they should have to put in 40 hours a week or in your case, a 24-hour shift.
But what are these people doing? Where are they at?
Dude, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I honestly don't know because, I've got older kids that are in the workforce right now and they're like, the retention where they're at is just crazy. But even my kids are like, oh, well, I don't want to stay here too long. And I'm like, no, you need to. There's the only reason you don't want to stay at your job is because you think you're worth $16 an hour. You're 15 years old. You're not worth $16 an hour. Yeah. Calm down.
I remember a few years ago, I was working as a medic for like barely minimum wage.
Oh yeah.
I was like, cool.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. And you were having a great time.
Yeah.
Right.
Had a ball.
You're like, this is the greatest job ever.
Yeah. Same here. Before I switched agencies, I was not making well, but
that's what it used to be about. You used to tell people what you did for a living, not how much you made.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, and we were also told when I started, hey, you're going to come in, you're going to make this amount of money, which again, you didn't really care about because it was, I was doing the job.
And you're like, I'm in the pension system and I can just can do the job now.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I'm going to get a pension and I'm going to have a good medical retirement, or good medical when I retire. And a lot of those things have changed. So that's changing the job as well, so.
Yeah. But I think
it's definitely just not one thing.
Yeah. I think the big one is just that public perception.
Yeah.
People don't perceive law enforcement the way they used to.
That's one of the big reasons I didn't even want to pursue it because I think being a cop would be cool. And the more and more that you guys get shit on, it's like, why would I want to deal with that?
Right.
Especially make a career change to deal with that.
That would be tough to go. Like, I love going into work because I think people love us.
Right.
But being a cop, like and I think it depends on where you're at, but you go into work and people don't want to see you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I just was driving down the main drag the other day and this guy literally, he saw my cruiser coming and, you saw the head bob and I'm like, oh, here we go. So I rolled down my passenger window because I'm waiting on him to yell or, ask for whatever. And I keep getting closer and I'm like, oh, okay, this is going to be interesting. And he's on the phone talking to whomever and literally stops. You can see him like saying, hold on a second, drops his phone and gives me the middle finger the entire time that I drive past.
Yeah.
Never met the guy. Don't know anything about him. I just waved like, hey, I'm like, hey, have a great day.
And I think that's the biggest point. Never met the guy, never dealt with him.
Couldn't tell you.
I pulled over a lady one night. It was like 10:30 at night. She was driving with her headlights off. I mean, it wasn't even like hey, I'm going to get a one headlight. It was just, I'm going to stop you before you cause a crash. And I pull her over, automatically has her hands out the window. I'm like, what in God's green? Don't kill me. She's like 65 years old. I'm like, ma'am, are you okay? I just want to make sure you don't shoot me. Why would I shoot you? She's like, I don't know, but I see it happening all the time. I'm like, no, you don't.
No, you don't.
That's social contagion.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's that false. I'm like, you don't see that. I said, ma'am, she's like, you didn't even have a reason to pull me over. I'm like, ma'am, you don't have your headlights on. She was like, what? And like, she had the parking lights. So all of her interiors, she was like, oh, but still would not pull her hand. You know, she clicked that, but still wanted, I'm like,
that's it.
Yeah. I know. But it goes back to that, you know, probably has never even had a negative interaction with law enforcement in their life.
Right. It's just what they see.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah. We only deal with 5% of the population.
Yeah.
I mean, that's in all reality. You guys are probably the same amount, the same 5% over and over and over again. You know what I mean? So
that's true.
95% of the population never has an interaction with fire, EMS, or law enforcement. Let's just say first responders.
Yeah.
Never. So they listen to whatever, you know, social media, whatever, you know, and then it just gets worse. And you're like, where did you get this idea from?
Yeah. Even when I get people asking me questions, you know, oh, well, I had my friend and this happened to them. And I go, okay, I'm going to give you the answer based on the information you're giving me.
Yeah.
I said, but understand that may not be 100% true.
Yeah.
Well, my friend told me. That's cool. Has your friend ever lied to you in the past? Well, all right.
So
now understand.
Yeah.
I just thought of something that's relevant to what's going on right now. What do you guys think about issue 2 passing? How's that going to affect you guys at all?
Wow. Or is it going to affect you?
It's absolutely, it's going to affect everybody. I'll give you this answer. Here's what I want you to do. Go and pull up numbers from Colorado, which was one of the first states to legalize marijuana. Tell me how it's gotten better.
I'm assuming it hasn't.
No.
I mean,
go ahead, sir.
I was just going to say the big one that I've read in a couple of different studies is the number of OVI related accidents, because OVI is not just alcohol.
Right.
Yeah. And I had a question about that too. Do you think it's anything like COVID where somebody smoked 3 hours ago and they're fine and they get in a wreck, but like a bunch of people are smoking and then they just happen to have like THC metabolites or whatever it's called in their system, or they get like they're COVID positive when they get in the wreck. So it's all
I think there are a ton of people that are actually smoking and driving.
They're just stoned.
They're just stoned out of their mind.
Okay.
And I don't know. When's the last time you guys have been to Vegas?
2000, never.
Oh, okay.
2000
and never.
16, 17.
16.
Yeah,
so
90s.
Yeah. So
before it was completely like pot central.
Right. So I was there last March and walking down the street, the entire strip smells like weed. Like that's all that it is. And it's very dirty. Guys are openly selling marijuana out on the street. So with all of that, explain, and I ask people this, I'm like, explain to me how it's going to get better. And their answer is, well, yeah, but then those people that want to smoke pot are going to smoke pot. And I go, you mean the people that are already smoking pot?
Right.
And then I go down the road a little bit more with them. I'm like, okay, so tell me who should be able to smoke pot. And they're like, well, everybody should smoke pot. I'm like, okay, all right. So let's think about this for a second. You have to get brain surgery the next day. They're like, okay. And I'm like, so your surgeon, and you got to be there at like 5 o'clock in the morning to start the whole process. And your surgery is going to be at 7, but your surgeon, because it's legal to smoke marijuana, your surgeon stayed up till midnight smoking weed, getting just smashed. And he comes in and he has to do brain surgery. And if he does this wrong, you could die. Should that guy? Well, no, that's crazy. That's ridiculous. Oh,
hey, at least he'll be relaxed, right?
Right.
I agree with you, but also that argument starts to fall apart when you're like, well, the surgeon could choose to show up drunk.
True.
Kind of thing.
True. But there should be more stops in there. You know what I mean?
Right.
Sure. I think people like, and I've researched this a little bit because I go to Canada at least once a year.
Okay.
And it's totally legal.
What do you do up there, Tim?
Apparently smokes weed.
I don't smoke weed up there. No.
I did research. Why are you doing research,
yes,
Tim?
Yes.
Well, I was curious because it's 100% legal up there now, and I want to know what their public say if they have, and a lot of them do have limitations. I think the most strict I saw was Toronto police, I believe.
Okay.
They can smoke like a month before they work. So if they're off for a month or whatever, that was the most strict. But a lot of other places were like 48 hours.
You're talking police departments.
Police departments.
Oh, wow. Okay. Very interesting.
First responders. So they had to go 48 hours.
And then they could come back.
Yeah, of being sober.
Right.
To come back to work.
Interesting.
And
so,
we could probably talk about this all day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
The thing that I've always wondered about as law enforcement officers, you guys are supposed to stop felonies in progress, right?
You mean like when we're off duty kind of thing? Or just any time?
Anytime.
I mean, yeah.
How do other departments do it when it's still a Schedule 1, not narcotic, but a Schedule 1 drug, no medicinal use, and these other places are like, oh, it's legal here, but you're watching somebody commit a felony. How does that work?
So
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, so are you meaning like if I'm in another state and I see it going on?
No, I mean like
yeah. And so the trick behind that is, again, if we're just talking about usage, it's usage. It's most places I've ever worked, the highest you're going to get is, unless you can tag them for trafficking, it's a misdemeanor offense for marijuana.
Yeah.
So that kind of a little bit negates that.
But you choose, because you see police interactions and they're like, I'm not gonna screw with you for a little bit of weed, which I appreciate. Like, it's cool.
Right.
It's like, hey, you just got a little bit of weed, which as humans, we all get that part. But I've always wondered, you are watching them commit a felony as far as the federal government's concerned.
And that's what I was just going to say.
Yeah,
so
there's the trick.
You're talking on the
about
Fed side.
Yeah,
so we don't have that jurisdiction.
Nope.
Okay.
So to file, I'm not going to, an AUSA, an assistant U.S. district attorney on the federal side, they're going if I could charge them. And then I take that to an AUSA and I'm like, hey, I'm going to charge, John over here with, felony possession of marijuana. Oh, so he's got like 1,000 pounds. No, it's a baggie. And they're going to go,
get out of here.
Yeah. Have a good day.
He's pranking me now.
Right. Yeah. They're looking for cameras. Right.
Yeah.
So I think it's, again, and this is the other side of the house. And I've told several people, this is like, show me a state where it has not become a major problem, where it has not turned into just, you're like,
is it the OVI part?
It's everything. It's going to be everything.
Is the state funding worth it?
Bro, it's a gateway drug.
Yeah.
But
I don't think that it is because, Ohio, if you pull it up and you say, where was the money that they're going to use that? Where is that going? It's kind of like,
that's what I really want to know.
Yeah.
If you want to go down that rabbit hole, start talking to people about where all the lottery money that was supposed to be helping all of our schools went.
Right.
I mean, and that's where that weirdness on the funding side goes.
I'm not going to pretend. I think people should be able to. I'm not going to be, but I think people should, as long as they treat it like an adult. Like, somebody can go like huff paint thinner. It doesn't mean they should.
Right.
And not, as long as you don't like infringe on anybody else.
Yeah.
If you want to go home and smoke a doobie, I don't care.
Just like alcohol.
Yeah.
That's why I think
the crazy
But as soon
part,
as you stop being responsible, then you have to deal with the repercussions.
What's funny is, and this again, anecdotal, there's no data behind this. Went to vacation up in Michigan, northern part of Michigan this last summer. And the little burg
Trader.
I know, right?
Yeah.
The little town we went to, like the first thing, my sister was riding with me in the car. We're pulling into this town, and the first thing my sister went was like, so how many militias do you think are around here? I mean, we were like northern part of Michigan, where I'm like,
that's a very weird question.
I'm like, probably 6.
Right. Yeah.
But this little town had like a gas station, a pizza place, and a little tiny like mom and pop grocery store, and 4 marijuana dispensaries.
That's just like Canada, where I go. There's nothing there, and there's an Indian reservation across the lake.
Yeah.
There's 8 pot dispensaries on that road, and it's like, what?
Right.
Yeah.
There's a town of 500 people.
Right.
what are you guys doing?
Right. Smoking a lot of weed.
That's why not, you know?
So it's like, where's the money coming from? Where's the money going? Why are there that many in that particular location? And I don't know, maybe the answer is a different way they're doing the legislation with it. I don't know. I always had a problem with people being like, well, I need to be able to smoke marijuana for medicinal reasons. Well, if you're doing it for medicinal reasons, you should be doing it in pill form because that's the most accurate way that you're distributing that within your body.
Right.
Smoking it, there's very little way
you're
that
not a doctor.
There's very little way that you can actually measure how much is going into your system. You know,
Coach Klein said I could.
Well, and the other thing that I tell people is like, I know a lot of people that smoke marijuana and they are contributing members of society. Like I'm sure they're fine.
Yeah.
I don't know one person that shoots dope.
Shoots heroin or fentanyl or
that is a contributing member to society. Like I don't know any of them.
No, I've never met that person.
You know, I know what issue 2 is going to do. It's going to ruin Michigan's economy. Not ruin it,
definitely.
but they already said they're not happy about issue 2 passing.
All those people from Ohio.
I guess it comes down to when people used to ask me, you know, are you for or against, you know, what are you going to, I'm like, if it's against the law, I'm gonna enforce the law. If it's not against the law, there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
I don't really, other than that, I don't care.
Right.
You know, when it comes to that, but like you said, we don't enforce federal law.
No.
And if it's a misdemeanor, it's like I always tell my kids, you're not going to talk yourself out of a traffic ticket, but you're talk yourself into one.
Yeah, very quickly.
Depending upon how you're dealing on that traffic stop. If it's a very small amount and you're just hanging with your buddies and I'm like, man, I can smell the weed. Yeah, it's this little baggie. It's in the glove box and I don't find anything else. I'm probably going to let it be destroyed on the side of the road. And it's going to be, but it's going to be documented that I let you do that. It's not just going to be this like back room. I'm not telling anybody. Like I'll be like, hey, I found a small amount. It's been destroyed on the side of the road. My body camera's on. If I had a dash cam, my dash cam is on, you know, but again, that's at officer discretion and kind of looping in a little bit. A lot of the newer generation of law enforcement don't understand that gray area of officer discretion. It's either you broke the law or you didn't break the law. Either or. There's no, you broke the law, but I'm going to cut you a break this time because I'm probably going to interact with you in the future and I want you to be on my side.
But you're talking about within reason, not like,
yeah.
I see a foot hanging out of your trunk, but we just had a beer yesterday.
Or
murder is a different story.
Are you saying that smoking marijuana is akin to murder? Is that what we're going for?
We actually just legalized murder too. I don't know.
Right.
Sorry, I don't want to get into that.
Speaking of murder, did you see the guy in the UK got locked up for the hockey murder?
The one where he cut the guy with the skate.
Did you watch the video?
I have not seen the video, but
it was very interesting.
We got into it last podcast, and it was
I'm gonna have to look
definitely
back.
I don't know if there was history.
Don't make these. You say the farmer has a question.
Yes.
You know, then it's an accusation.
Could there have been? That's what you want to say.
Yes.
Could there have been some bad blood?
Yeah.
He killed that person?
You're right. Yeah.
He definitely killed him. But he definitely meant to do something.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was
very
not an
interesting.
accident.
Yeah. That one I would not have given him a break on.
Yeah.
So just a heads up.
Yeah.
I think back to the other thing though about what you're saying on the newer guys coming on the job. I think it's also they don't understand the gray area because we all have body cameras now.
Yep.
Before, if I pulled you over for DUI and I was like, all right, man, here's what we're going to do. Give me your car keys. I'm going to park your car. And I've done that a lot.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm like, dude, I'm not going to hit you with this DUI tonight. Like, I'm not in the mood for it or whatever. You're just a good person.
Right.
Who came out and was like,
you made a mistake.
Yeah, I'm drunk. I'm really drunk right now. And I'm sorry.
Right.
You're right. You got, and I've had guys do that. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, give me your car keys, park your car. You're leaving it here. I'm going to take you home, come into the PD the next day. And, you know, I'll be back at 4:00 and pick up your keys. Okay. You can't do that now because of body cameras.
Yeah. Even just minor stuff like open container.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, you're not drunk enough that I can cite you for anything, but you've got an open container. Man, just pour it out on the side of the road. You're fine. You passed my sobriety test. I can barely smell it on you. It's lukewarm.
Right.
But yeah, a lot of people are going to be like, well, I've got you on body camera with an open container of alcohol.
Have you guys ever had to pull over another cop?
Yes.
Oh, I've pulled over other cops. Yep.
How'd that go?
It depends.
I mean, more for like OVI and stuff. I'm sure you probably.
I pulled over a couple other cops for OVI pre-camera. Very honest. Yeah, I gave them the same opportunities that I pulled over more non-police officers for DUI and gave them a ride home than I have police officers that I gave a ride home to. So, I mean, and if you're looking at numbers like, there was a huge amount of numbers of people that were non-law enforcement, non-first responders that I gave a ride home to versus the 2 police officers that I can think of right off the rip who were like, hey man, I'm a cop. I got drunk. My wife and I are getting divorced. I screwed up. Cool.
You empathize a little bit.
Yeah.
And you get them off the road.
Absolutely. And we're still, like you said earlier, we're still human beings. I mean, everybody makes mistakes and, so.
Yeah. I mean, and you want to talk about, they start talking about mental health issues and stuff. It's like, okay, that situation, okay, guy's going through a divorce. He's having a really bad rip. Now you're pretty much telling him you're going to cost him his job.
Yeah.
Right. That is not helping.
And with the camera,
anyone.
You can hear it in their voice. They're like, come on, Sarge, you're on camera. Like, what do you want me to do?
Right.
Yeah. You know?
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah. And it's, I mean, the cameras are a good thing. They really, really are. It shows the public in all reality, we are doing the right thing the vast majority of the time.
Right. Yeah. In a split second.
Yes. And making decision in a split second. And I'll be the first one to say, hey, if the cop messes up and it's like, dude, that was wrong. Like, you should not have done that, or you should not be in the job. I'm the first guy to go, this guy's got to go.
Yep.
Or he messed up. But taking away that discretion now, it's really changed this job. And I don't know if it's for the good. I really don't. I'm not sure.
And the law enforcement one, people are like, well, same standard, blah, blah, blah. Okay. You are a secretary. You are a businessman. You get pulled over for the OVI. Nobody at work's even going to know about that. You can go about it. No problem. Nobody's going to know. Maybe a background check later on down the road, but probably not. Law enforcement, everybody's going to know. It's a community. Everybody's going to know. It's going to get out. Yeah. And more than likely, they're going to lose their job.
Not only law enforcement, that's the biggest one, but anywhere you have to drive a public service vehicle.
I mean, I know an agency now that here in Ohio where the officer, he was a new hire at this department. He was driving to work. He was intoxicated. They fired him.
Like, had too much to drink the night before, or he was just like ham bone going into work?
He was ham bone driving into work. Like, nice. And I'm like, no, you should have fired him. I mean,
And now, flip side, judgment. I knew a guy who came into work. Everybody talked to him. He was doing great. Random drug screen that morning. Okay. He takes the departmental vehicle, goes over to the random screening. 20 minutes later calls in. Hey, I guess apparently they do breathalyzer now and they're saying I blew over the limit.
They do breathalyzer now?
Yeah.
Really?
For some places. Yeah. So they're like,
he was probably like,
what?
Right.
Like straight up, like everybody had talked to this guy and everybody was like, wait a minute, what? There were zero signs of impairment.
Right.
And he was like, I was at a buddy's bachelor party. I didn't have to be in until 8. I got home at like 2-3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, I was trashed. My brother basically put me on the couch to go to sleep. 6 hours. I woke up and came into work. Right. Ours was 4.
Yeah.
Hit that 2 hour peak up, 2 hour down, you're good to go. And, they were straight up turning your resignation and we're going to charge you because you did a breathalyzer and we have you on video driving your vehicle.
Yeah.
That's rough.
And that kid, that was his one and only time in law enforcement because there's no way nobody's going to hire him.
Yeah.
But again, it's that there's, yes, we do have a little bit of a higher standard when it comes to a lot of things,
I get that. Yeah.
But we also have to understand that the punishment for us a lot of times is way worse for the same infractions that people would have. And then we shoot and kill somebody and we get found guilty of it. We're going to have the same penalty that you guys were.
Right.
Non-first responder type person that gets an OVI is going to have way less ramifications than we are, and it's, cameras have saved my butt more times.
Absolutely.
Than
it's funny how that worked. Everybody's like, oh yeah, the cops have cameras now. And then they're like, oh, we can't be complete D-bags to the cops now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's gotten to the point now where there's areas that it's written into their policy that they're not allowed to have their body cameras on during mass protests because the protesters have said, we don't want your body cameras on. Well, wait a minute. Wouldn't you want it documented in case any of my people do something wrong or hurt any of your people? Isn't that why you wanted it? That's interesting.
Yeah. Yep.
I might have wanted to be a cop back when you could like give some 100% street justice.
Oh,
Dude,
you're talking the 90s, but
Yeah.
When I went through the academy,
like some people probably would be reformed from that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to fuck with the cops again.
Yeah. Straight up. Here you go. Yeah. The stories I heard when I went through the academy, and it was the old, like, the dudes were Vietnam vets that went into law enforcement. And they're like, yeah, we had a guy who was jumping roofs, and, you know, next thing I know, he's hitting the ER, and they're calling us because they got a guy that's got a bullet lodged in his thigh, but it's going up. We're like, we'll be down there in 10 minutes. We might need to talk to this guy. And I'm like, nice. Yeah.
I'm like, different times.
We're straight up shooting up.
Yes.
So what are your plans for retirement?
So, retirement wise, I'm looking at, back and forth kind of when I can go now because I got my time. So I'm going to stay at least till next fall. And then, I'll just go out and continue doing the traveling roadshow, teaching. So I teach now, have been on doing the traveling roadshow thing since 2016. I wrote a vehicle program for another company that I used to work for. And I've taught that, and that's the main thing around the country that I've taught is this vehicle program. So I'll continue to do that, get some contracts. I've got some other contracts that are going to come up here next spring, summer, fall timeframe. Cool. And then, so I'll continue to do that and just kind of build my company a little bit.
Do you plan on teaching civilians at any point?
I would teach civilians regular shooting classes, pistol, carbine type of stuff.
You don't do any of that now, right?
I don't. I have in the past. I've done a few. Not saying that I wouldn't. I would be interested in that. Just kind of see. I know that how it's different, but it would be interesting because I think some civilians would come in and see the class and go through the training, and it would be very interesting to watch the light bulbs come on and be like, oh wow. You can shoot a pistol that well,
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not against it. I'm just so used to teaching law enforcement right now. You know what I mean? So I'll do that. I'll continue to just build the company and get those things going and kind of go from there. So,
and I would like to add, I've been through the condensed vehicle course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you did the 2-day.
Yeah, yes. I did the
really,
2-day.
Really tiny cars.
Yes.
Yeah.
They were clown cars.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, which for me is just typically any sedan.
Right.
Yes.
I drove to Illinois the other day in a Mini Cooper. Do not
That's
recommend.
A horrible idea.
Next to a guy that's about his same body size.
Guy.
That's
Two
weird.
fat guys in a Mini Cooper,
Which is weird.
In a truck, like tire. And
because most
tools.
Mini Coopers are driven by old women or my son-in-law.
Yeah.
So
I wouldn't say
that's
you were
weird.
fat. I'd just say you were husky.
Or Matt Wahlberg.
Husky were my jeans back in middle school.
Yeah. 14 husky when I was 8.
Right.
But yeah,
It's a big boy.
He's a thick boy.
Anyway, I always go back, graduated high school, 320.
Wow.
So back to the vehicle. Yeah, the vehicle class. It is. It's an eye-opening class, even for law enforcement to understand. And I think the best point I ever got out of that from you is the only consistency with vehicle ballistics is the inconsistency.
Yeah, it's very
like I've seen the same handgun put a round through a door that barely even makes a dent in a door on the same car. So, I mean, it's a fantastic class,
and
especially
all
for law
cars are made
enforcement.
differently. I mean, we know that from cutting them up.
Oh, God, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. Same make and model, but it may have gone through a different shop or a different factory. So, I mean, it's one of those things where, we kind of wanted to delve into it, but I know we're running a little long, was that difference between practice and training. You can go and practice by yourself all the time, but you go to training with someone that knows what they're talking about. Yeah. And that's the big point, knows what they're talking about.
Yeah. You want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, I can.
The difference between practice and training, and then we'll wrap it up here.
Yeah. So when I'm training, what am I training at that time? For instance, today, my training, my dry fire, right? What I was working on was moving left to right or right to left with a visual barricade, with a wall that I built for dry fire specifically. And I'm working on drawing the gun, coming to the spot, and then moving 2-step or 1-step reload and coming back out on another spot. So that, to me, that's training, right? And understanding where I need to go in my training. You know what I mean? Then when I go and practice and I'm going to live fire, my live fire is there to test what I've been practicing, right? So if I've been practicing in dry fire, and a lot of people mess this up, they're like, well, I go to the range and I shot 700 rounds. And I'm like, that's cool. What'd you learn out of that? that my hands really hurt and I can shoot 700 rounds now, right?
Yeah.
Dump it into trash.
Yes, I dumped it. It was like hot garbage, right? You know what I mean?
Just making noise.
Yeah, it just made a lot of noise. Okay. And I'm like, well, that's not training. And they're, you know, so that's why I'm really, really big on dry fire and getting into that. And then that's where I'm really, really training. When I go to practice, I'm testing the things that I've been practicing.
Yeah, you're trying to validate.
Validate, exactly. It's just like when you go to a match. I'm validating in a match on demand what I've been working on. And then you can look back at your video and go, ooh, that was a mess. Okay. And I don't want to do that again. Right. You know, so, and then you bring those things back. So I think that's where people have to understand is training. 95% of it can be done in dry fire and getting those things down and seeing where, you know, the gun handling portion, like you were talking about earlier, draws, reloads, moving around objects, that's gun handling stuff. You know what I mean? Bringing the gun up on target, seeing, you know, stopping the dot. If you're shooting a dot right where I'm looking, all that stuff is gun handling. Once I can do that very, very efficiently, then I can start to get into a lot of the other things. And I don't have to practice one-shot reloads on the range. To me, that's a complete waste of time. Why would you do that? Like there are so many other things that I can be doing in training, right? Or in practice and I can do all those things in dry fire.
So, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think the big part is most miss the training. Like you said, the training aspect.
Yes.
They just go and they practice.
Yes.
Go to the range and shoot and
Yes.
practice. And again, practice, you know, if you've got bad habits, you're going to solidify those bad habits.
Just make them bigger.
Yeah.
Compound them even more and more. So, yeah.
Cool. Got anything, Timmy?
No, I think it was a great show.
You guys got anything you want to shout out?
I wanted to mention Tim, mustache is looking fantastic.
He combed it today.
Actually, for our viewers,
Don't do it. Don't do it to yourself.
We're gonna have to cut this out, but
I'm not cutting it out.
Jared said my stash is trash.
No,
Don likes it, so
I do.
You know, I want people to vote. We're gonna put up a poll.
I mean, mine's similar, and Dustin can attest to this. Way out of policy and regs, but you know, it is what it is.
Yeah.
You know,
but it's no judgment. Yeah. I like his a little bit more though.
I do.
It's definitely more white trash than yours is. I say that with a lot of love.
So I don't know that I like.
You look like a Mountain Dew American.
I got a trash dash.
Yes.
I appreciate yours more than mine. I do. I would love to go the full, and I've had it fully down.
Yeah.
But it gets to that point where it's like, then it's really noticeable.
Right.
And like right now it's enough that if I bump into top administrators, they forget about it.
You got a switchblade mustache comb?
Definitely.
No, because I don't beat my wife. I don't know what.
Look at that. Christmas
All right,
time.
guys.
Did you buy that at the county fair?
Amazon got a 3-pack for $6.
Right. Nice.
His officer was looking out for him.
Because you have two friends that need them? Maybe me.
Maybe if you knew that we sat around on recliners at the station and, combed our mustache, you'd be more.
I guessed that you did that, but now it's been confirmed.
Yes.
All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Then we'll talk off camera about mustaches and jealousy and all that stuff. So thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys.
Anytime, guys. It was awesome. Thank you very much.
No problem. Later, everybody.
See
Take
ya.
care.